All right, my friends, we're back. We're going to go ahead and do a test to make sure you guys can hear me okay. I see Trudy's in. Trudy, if you can hear me, or if anyone else is with us, how are we sounding out? Hopefully, it's better. We're going to see to my left screen if names are populating. I heard from one of my teammates. Thank you, Jack, for tuning in and your assistance. I appreciate that. So apparently our sound is good and we're back. I don't even think I want to repeat everything we've said. We're just going to get in it where we left off it. And those of you who are with us live, thanks for staying with us. Thank you for your patience. Hopefully we have better volume and stuff happens, but that's how we do. In the Marine Corps, we said adapt, improvise. That's how we do, right? And drive on. Leslie, my sister from another mistress, good to see you. I love you. Brian, thank you. Will, good to see you. Bill, good to see you, my friend. And we have so many people. Carrie and Barab, thanks for coming back. Kristen, thank you so much. You guys are amazing. So, you know what? Let's start off there. I mean, we're back. We're doing good. We have better volume. Everything's working again. And that's where I should have started off the last time, is just to say thank you. Thank you all for your love, your support, your kindness, your passion, because that is exactly why we are winning this election. And people don't realize how well we're doing. We're doing great. And I'm not one to be biased because there's no value. Stay objective. Be real. Look at the atmospherics. Pay attention to the indicators. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the campaign. We're going to talk about the election. We're going to talk about where we're at, what's going on. We'll talk about the poll. We'll talk about the numbers. And we'll talk about why we're winning, why our internal polling reflects more effective numbers than this recent Seattle Times, University of Washington poll that's all over the news that all the liberal Republicans are talking about. Have you guys seen the poll? I mean, did anybody read the poll? Did you see the sample group? I may have missed it, and I hope I didn't, but I looked to see what were the different demographics represented, and there was a huge demographic group just left off. And you would think in liberal Seattle that wouldn't happen, but I guess when we talk about hypocrisy, it knows no bounds. It knows no bounds. So let's talk about the poll. That poll, 503, I believe, was the sample size. Y'all know what the population of the state of Washington is. Y'all know we have 39 counties, not one. Hopefully we realize that when we get active, when we self-govern, when we the people, not we the sheeple, because I'm talking to we the people, who actually pay attention, who believe in common sense, who are willing to go out and work for, who are willing to fight for that which they believe in and love, who are passionate about America, the greatness of our nation, which is the fact that we are all blended cultures together, different races, different religions, different belief systems, but together under that one beautiful flag, out of the many, one, e pluribus unum. That is the greatness of America, the greatness of our nation. And that is why I am so proud to represent this nation. America first and Washington first. People over politics, and that Constitution that is in place to protect we the people. And it starts out, it hasn't changed. We the people. We the people. That is the only way to govern this constitutional republic, as if we the people do so. And so that is why it's important not to subscribe to nonsense. So that poll said that Dave Reichert has 76% of the Republican Party vote. Now, we're the endorsed candidate of the Washington State Republican Party. We won a supermajority at the state convention of 72%. Those delegates, the largest delegation in the history of Washington State, for all parties, Libertarians, Democrats, Republicans, it was the largest gathering of delegates of any party in state history. We had over 2,000 something folks there. 1,839 delegates. And it was overwhelming. Overwhelming. And so when you see a poll that says 76%, I'm going to guess you're polling maybe a certain demographic that forgot about the rest of the state. And is this not a common sense statement to say that you cannot win a primary election without your party base? Which we have. Is it safe to say that when you see straw poll after straw poll after straw poll, which typically has conservative Republican voters, and I'll give you that. We want all voters. We want all citizens of Washington State to rally together united for common sense. That's what we want, Bird for Governor campaign. But when you see those straw polls who typically have conservative Republican voters, and we win in the high 70s, and we win at the very lowest high 60s on the one-offs, how in the heck do you get 76%? So that tells you all you need to know. I mean, for me, it told me all I needed to know at Seattle Times and University of Washington poll. So there it is. And then as some of the people in the chat box over here are talking about, it's the methodology of the poll, right? Sample size. And we can talk about the margin of error, and we can talk about the V factor, right? Which is the accuracy, right? The confidence factor. I appreciate you, Kevin. I appreciate all you guys. Thanks, you guys, for tuning in. I am going to look for some questions. Taylor, tell me about my friend again. She was at the Renton's Chamber of Commerce, and we'll catch up later, but she's wonderful. But let's get to some questions, guys. Ask away. Here's what's happening in the campaign trail. We just got back. I want to say that it could have been yesterday, day before yesterday. We got back at 1:30 in the morning from Seattle. We did a couple events. We were at Kent Cornucopia, which was amazing. Wendy D and so many other people. We were in the parade. It was wonderful. A lot of folks. I got to give a shout out to Coach Peanut from the Kent Community Center there. He coaches basketball at the community center. Amazing. We need to do more after school programs for our young people. So Coach Peanut, shout out to you, brother. It was wonderful meeting you and your family. And so many other wonderful people from the community there. We were in Clark County for the Lincoln Day dinner, and we were there for the former Secretary of Defense, Christopher Miller. What an amazing man. He had us rolling. Brilliant former Special Forces 5th Group guy. I can see why. No, he was cool. He was amazing. 3rd Congressional District candidate, Joe Kent. Joe, good seeing you, brother. It was a wonderful event. Clark County, thank you for the love. Matt Boomala, amazing chair. Mr. Moore, Mark Moore, thank you for your support. Glenn and so many others from down there. Just so many names. Trish, Sally, all of you guys. You're amazing down there. And before that, we were in Mason County. We were in Candidates in the Park, and it was the Mason County Republican Women's Club and those amazing ladies. And my dear friend, Jen, I have to give a shout out to Jen. She's an angel, dear friend. And thank you, ladies, for your endorsement. I'm honored. And thank you for the opportunity to present that day. Folks, I'm going to go a little dark for a second. When I say that, it's not me going dark. It's just simply a reality, the darkness of our society. You know, when I came off that stage, you know, my wife and I, we shook hands. We hung out with some beautiful people from Mason County for a while. And then we had to leave because we had to get to Clark County for the Lincoln Day dinner. And we got in the vehicle. My daughter was with us. And we were talking about how wonderful it was. And I was catching up in emails. You get it. And then someone, one of my friends from Spokane County, Lyle, who's at the RNC convention, messaged me and he says, have you heard about what happened to President Trump? And I hadn't. And then one of my advisors, Ryan, sent me a text and say there was an attempted assassination on President Trump. And of course, naturally, no, it's a mistake. There must be something's wrong. Initially. So that was a denial on my part. And I admit that. And then, of course, I told my wife, and naturally I started checking the news, and it obviously became true. And then I was very upset, and then I immediately did a response, and then we're trying to get the team members who were out at all these events, try to get a message out to the public, and the team scrambling, trying to get back to a computer and trying to get my message out. It was just so much, and it was so emotional, and it was so sad. But out of darkness is light. And that is humanity. And that is what I saw in a message I received from the president, our 45th president, who demonstrated strength when he said love and unity is our strength. And that is what we must do as a nation and as a state. Unite. Unite for things that are much more important. Our children, our grandchildren, the future for future generations. We cannot dwell in the darkness. We cannot stay in that evil. We must rise above, and we must lift one another out. And I hope you will join me in that. Through this entire campaign, you realize that there's rhetoric. Those who are for Dave, those who are for Semi, those who are for Bob, those are for Mark, and others. And we've received some nasty hits, right, from the other side. And I'm not talking Bob Ferguson. Some nasty stuff. And throughout the entire campaign, every podcast that we have ever done, you have heard me call for peace, civility. Have you not? Because it was the right thing to do, because leaders unite, leaders don't divide. And if you have someone who stays silent in the presence of darkness, in the presence of that vitriol, and they say nothing, that says a lot. We need to usher in a new class of leadership. And when it comes to politics, we don't need any more career politicians. We need statesmen and stateswomen. Those who will represent the people, those who represent values. It is not about money. It is not about politics. It is not about that rich elite group who will do anything to maintain power and control. We, the people, must take back our state, and we must take back our nation. And we do it with truth. We do it with love. We do it with compassion. We do it with civility, and we get back to humanity. And I pray that you'll join me in that. It doesn't matter what your party affiliation is. It's time to put people over politics. And I said this just moments ago before this podcast. In Washington State, we have seniors who are being taxed out of their home. We have small businessmen and women who are being overregulated out of the state. We have young people who cannot afford a decent apartment to live in or ever be able to afford a home of their own. But yet we have a gas tax, we have a liquor tax, we have a marijuana tax, we have we pay how many taxes? We have tolls, gambling tax, all of these taxes that I can't even name all of them. But our roads are not getting any better. Our bridges aren't getting any better. Our schools aren't getting any better. And the cost of living in Washington State continues to get higher. And people cannot afford to live here anymore. And at some point in time, we have to set down our own biases and differences and say we must come together and unite and figure out what we need to do to make it better. And that is the reason why I am here. That is why I wrote Solutions with Actions. That's why every week we have this podcast and we talk about solutions, about what needs to be done to remedy that which is broken in Washington State, which has raised the cost of living. Small businesses, which are the lifeblood of our economy. When you bring forward a CARES Act that is essentially a payroll tax in disguise, this long-term CARES Act that gives you short-term care, 60, 90 days at best. And if you leave the state, you lose your benefits and you have to start over. If you leave the workforce and you come back in the workforce, you lose your benefits and you have to start over. There's nothing long-term care about that long-term care act. which is why it's on the ballot via an initiative this November. Vote to get rid of it. Vote to opt out of it. We have the capital gains tax that weaponizes and penalizes people who want to make something better of themselves. This is America. Entrepreneurship. Rising up. No one is relegated to a station. This is not how it works in America. So that capital gains tax through initiative is on the ballot. Vote to repeal it and get rid of it. It's not an excise tax. It's another form of income tax. And I will say this. Let me add this. We must not use taxation when someone has worked hard their entire life and they have built up generational savings that they can pass on to their children and loved ones. How dare us tax that money again as we leave this earth and we want to give that to our children, our grandchildren, or our loved ones, and you dare to want to tax us again on that money? No. No generational wealth taxes. That needs to go away. We have the Climate Commitment Act. The Climate Commitment Act, this climate change ideology, this Climate Commitment Act that the governor was warned about, that it would raise gas taxes, it would raise diesel cost, in which it raised gas prices 50 cents a gallon, diesel 63 cents a gallon, and there was supposed to be an exemption for our growers, our farmers, our ranchers, our truck drivers who are essential to our economy. There was supposed to be an exemption, but apparently it didn't happen. How do you pass an act? How do you sign a bill that was supposed to have something that didn't have something, and then you have to do another bill to then give it back in a rebate? This makes no sense. We must do better. So the Climate Commitment Act is in an initiative. It's going to be in the ballot. It must be repealed. Oh, my friends, there's a lot more that needs to be repealed. We could talk about the assault weapons ban, the magazine capacity ban, and all these other things. And don't you dare utilize that heinous attempted assassination to talk about Second Amendment and use it as an excuse to take away our Second Amendment rights. Article 1, Section 24 of the Washington State Constitution, which gives us more protections in our beautiful state, more so than the Second Amendment. So there's a lot happening that we should be concerned about and that we must unite and work together. Common sense governance is needed in Washington State, and you don't get that with these professional career politicians. And look at Bob Ferguson, and I have nothing against the man personally. I've never met him personally, and I will never attack him personally. But he has done a terrible job as the chief law enforcement officer of this state. Rape is up 51%, property crime is up 73%. Murder is up 97%. We're number 3 in the nation for auto theft. Bob Ferguson sues the automakers. Instead of holding criminals accountable for the crime of stealing cars, he goes after the car makers. The chief law enforcement officer, CHOP, Chaz, do you remember those acronyms? But you want to talk about January 6th or something like that, and you had your autonomous zone where they're unloading M16s out of the back of a Prius, but you want to take away our Second Amendment rights? Or talk about magazine capacity? You think 11 rounds or 12 rounds makes a difference after 10? Hypocrisy much? Maybe we should start focusing on maintaining and protecting the constitutional rights of our citizens more than taking their rights away, as was done with the shutdowns and the unconstitutional mandates. They got to a point where they were talking about vaccinating babies. Children were the least likely to contract COVID-19. They shut down our schools. They shut down our places of worship. They shut down our businesses. And who in the heck are they to deem essential or non-essential? But I find it interesting and amazing how the establishment, the elitists, those in power and control, deem that the big government, big corporations, they were essential, but all those small business owners were deemed non-essential and wiped out many of them. And you want to talk about our ferry system. Half of our staff, most of our staff, because they refuse to get the jab, they refuse to get that vaccination. And by the way, a vaccine in which the pharmaceutical companies, to which I've never been a lobbyist for, by the way, just please check that in a box someplace, everybody. The pharmaceutical companies who were given a get out of jail free card, non-liable as to whether those vaccinations would cause harm or myocarditis, just that slipped out intentionally. But yet they want to use the citizens of our state and the nation as guinea pigs. You either get the vaccination or you lose your job. Nurses, doctors, PAs, practitioners, people that we need, mental health professionals. Did you notice after that time how it skyrocketed with addiction, mental health issues? Did you see what happened to children in our schools? Do you understand that only 50.9% of all children met grade level standards in English and language arts? Only 37.9% made grade level standards in mathematics, and only 42.7% made grade level standards in science in our school system. When you average out all the school districts in this state, but yet they were graduating them at an 83% rate. Lost learning, teen suicides because of anxiety, depression. Was it worth it? Shutting us down, bringing those unconstitutional mandates? And who supported that? Now, you have every right. Citizens have a choice. And that's what I supported. Choice. You make the choice. You have the right. Your constitutional rights. Not being mandated. A mandate is not a law. Dave Reichert wrote an article with Reagan Dunn in the Seattle Times supporting the mandates. Should you know that? Does that matter to you? It does to me. I will not vote for him. He voted with Democrats for cap and trade, and now we put cap and trade on the ballot to repeal? Are you against it and now you're for it? Are you for it, now you're against it? How about boys and girls sports? Boys and girls locker rooms? Were you for it and now you're against it? Where are you at? I think people need to know, which is why we wanted to debate, which is why citizens, voters deserve to have a debate. But again, sometimes people are afraid to show up. We showed up at the convention, didn't we? Day one, when the doors open, all day, every day, we were there answering questions. Why? Because we are applying for a job to serve we the people. Now, I'm talking a lot. I'm getting spicy. I'm getting excited, but we're doing it with kindness, compassion, and truth. Truth is love. Love is truth. If you care, you speak truth. And that's what we're doing. And someone said civic crisis. Yes. Oh, yes. And someone said he went off of the Republican Party in 2004. I mean, again, I don't know what I don't know. And, you know, if you want to identify as a Republican or you want to identify as this, you can identify you're an adult, do what you want. But be true to who you are. And you can kind of see it when you start talking about abortion pills and things of that nature. Yes, 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 yes. And do you want to hear another story? Even the interviewer in the Seattle Times editorial board was like, what? What? She was surprised. I was surprised too when I saw that video. So again, we have a choice. You have a choice. So let's talk about where we're at in the campaign. You've got Bob Ferguson, far left, and we get this. Bob Ferguson has every right to be far left. You have Senator Mark Mullet, an established, respected Democrat senator who is a conservative Democrat. Right there in the middle. Dave Reichert, they say that they're liberal, moderate Republicans. So right there in the middle, right next to Mark Mullet. And then you have me to the right. Not extreme anything, but they'll call me ultra, mega, maga, misdemeanor, and all these other names and identifiers. But I consider myself a populist, a common sense pragmatist. And the truth is, I've said it. I'm all for President Washington. Partisanship and parties do no good for the people except to divide us. Service to the people and honoring the Constitution is what we should be here for. What are you going to do? The Janet Jackson equation. What have you done for me lately? That's what we should be talking about. What are you going to do when you get into office? I talked about how bad our economy is, which is why we're calling for a third-party audit of all state programs, all state offices on day one, so that we can find out where the money is going, how it's being spent, and bring fiscal accountability and transparencies to state government, to Washington state government. This administration has doubled the budget to $71.5 billion in the last 10 years. That is billions of dollars. This is a tax and spend. And they keep taking tax money and spending it recklessly. And every time an audit is conducted at a state or county or municipal level, have you noticed how you find that money is missing? Hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars. Do you remember that during this whole pandemic thing, that $340 million of money that should have went to families went to illegal immigrants from this administration? Did you remember that hundreds of millions of dollars through an employment security scam was lost? Hundreds of millions of dollars? They got a couple hundred million back. Does anybody care that the rest of the hundreds of millions of dollars is still missing? Does anybody care? And yet, are we going to put another career politician in office? Stop and think about it. Do you want someone with solutions or actions, or do you want someone going in there who was going to answer to those big dollar donors? Not me. So let's look to some questions. I'm doing a lot of talking, and I owe you guys some answers. So I'm going to look to the left. We're going to look to the window. Then I'm going to go to the written questions. Let's see what we have. I think there's something here. Corporation listed, eighth wealthiest down here. How does that work? Nope. This is more of a statement from David. I'm looking. I know someone says you got to step it up now, Simi. Civic, I appreciate that. I've been stepping it up every single day, and sometimes 2 and 3 times a day. Stay with us and follow along with us because we're stepping it up. I think the answer is, or the question is, are you guys ready to step it up? Are you telling every single person you know? Are you going out there for flag waving and sign waving? Are you doing that? I hope so. And hopefully you're not buying into this poll nonsense. Hopefully you're not letting your minds be owned by the same establishment that has been running the state into the ground, that is trying to divide us. Hopefully you're not buying into that nonsense that it takes money to win. No, it takes the people to win. Article 1, Section 1 of the Washington State Constitution says that power is inherent in the people. And by the way, that comes from the Declaration of Independence of the United States of America. And that's right, Bill. Bob Ferguson is right now in the middle of a $42 million lawsuit and dragged Washington State University into this. And this has to do with procurement, acquisition, and contracts. This state spends billions of dollars every single year in acquisition, procurement, and contracts. I've been trained at the federal level as a contract officer representative. I oversaw the acquisition career management program for the United States Department of Energy, where I worked. I know contracts, procurements, and acquisitions. Does that matter when you're being taxed billions of dollars? Think about that. Resume matters if you want someone to go to work. I'm applying for a job to go to work to make Washington State better, to make sure our state government is more efficient, more effective, and spends less money so that we can make government smaller, so we can take less of your money, take less of small business owners' money, so that they can lower the cost of goods, cost of services, so that we can bring down the cost of living, so that we can build more housing units, more apartment units, because we're going to lower those energy codes back to where it makes sense. 2008 Energy Star standards. Yeah, they doubled, tripled. So now it costs twice as much to build an apartment or a home. That's why we have a housing crisis. That's why it costs more. We're going to fix that. Let's see what else we have here. Will you endorse candidates to flip chambers? Absolutely, Aiden. That's the whole idea, is to support, to endorse, to facilitate transformational change. And it's not just in the legislature. We will look for, we will recruit, and we will support candidates that will support the people of Washington State. And I'm going to tell you this, y'all. This is not political. Because if you don't realize we've been getting played by both sides of the party, of the aisle, we have been. It's those elitists who think that they're better than we are, that they look down upon us. We need we the people, grassroots candidates going in to serve the people, to bring common sense bills to the governor's office that supports and ensures that small businesses thrive. 50.7% of all people who work in the state work for small business owners. So we need small businesses to do well so that they can hire more and pay better. It's microeconomics 101. We're going to make it happen. We're going to raise the quality of life, and we're going to lower the cost of living. We're going to raise the standard of living in Washington State. We're going to bring in record tourism to Washington State. Let other people come from outside of the state, spend all of their money, and then go home. That's what we're going to do. This is the most beautiful state in the nation. Why are we not the number one tourist attraction in the nation? We should be. Geographically, we have everything that we need to make that happen. The film industry, you know how huge we were back in the day in the film industry? Who would not want to come shoot commercials and movies in Washington State? Y'all remember Northern Exposure? I think that was filmed in Roslyn, was it not? What a beautiful city that is. Guys, there's a lot we can be doing. A lot we can be doing. Okay, I'm looking for questions here, you guys. And please make sure it's clear for me because there's a lot of stuff here. And let's see what we have here. Nothing's jumping out. Okay, I'm going to go to the bottom. I'm going to go to the page, the papers. And if I don't see anything here, which I don't, in terms of question marks, you got to make it clear for me because there's so much here, guys. All right, here's we go. So Carly asked a question. She says, what will you do for the disabled? Carly, that is a very open-ended question. What will I do for the disabled? Well, let me just say this. And I actually know Carly from Clark County. She's brilliant. She's an author. Brilliant. I will start in early education, special education in our school systems, because we've all seen this. This is not me because my grandson is autistic or my niece is autistic, high on spectrum. We have seen special needs people and disabled citizens who perform at such a high level, who are such contributors. And I'm going to speak to my friend, Carly, because she actually is a personal friend of mine. The woman is brilliant. Brilliant. She may be in a wheelchair, but she is brilliant and a contributor to society. What I would say to this is find every mechanism to maximize our citizens, our disabled citizens, to the best of their abilities. My niece has been working. I've known her for probably half of her life. She's beautiful. She's amazing. And she is very disabled. She's, again, high on spectrum. She's truly autistic. Beautiful human being. She has been working at Pizza Hut her entire life, and she is an asset. Programs like the ARC, I support so high. I mean, it's an amazing program. These after-school programs where these beautiful individuals can work to their ability. I will maximize programs to transition, not just from school, but to the workplace. We need more people in the workplace. And we have these great Americans who have assets that we can utilize. That's right. Let's do it. Make sure that they have a place in our career technical education programs, 100%. So, Carly, that is just the start. And to ensure our laws are protection, I can talk about our special needs and ensure that our education plans that are started at the beginning of the year are honored throughout the year, that we are funding special education throughout Washington State. It's often forgotten, and it's often put on levies to fund special education. And I also think we should support our paras. We need more paras. We're understaffed in paras. We should have 2 because we have this push to push special needs children into general education. And you push all that on a teacher in a classroom, one teacher in a classroom, and y'all don't understand the behavior issues that we have in classrooms right now. And then you have special needs who have special needs. And then you have general education. There's so much going on in one classroom with one teacher. Not fair, not enough resources. Let's give teachers back their classroom and make sure that they have all the support that they need. Oh, don't get me started. Carly, I hope I answered your question. And then Roy asks, what are we going to do about the oversight regarding university and college costs? Well, I think maybe we should focus on accountability. How we fund colleges and universities, there should be some accountability of colleges and universities, because what I'm seeing lately is that they're not bringing accountability and focus on academic excellence. They've gone so woke and anti-Semitic, which we saw at the University of Washington recently, because a lot of people are concerned about what am I enrolling in? Where am I sending my children? And as taxpayers, what are we funding? So no, it's more than just the cost of schools, because schools can set the cost, especially if it's not a state school. But what I would say is this, that goes part and parcel with accountability. The focus should be on academic excellence and, of course, accessibility. And I think you probably realize, no, you sign up to pay an academic debt, you will pay your debt. The state or the federal government or taxpayers do not pay the debt of other people who signed up for a debt. So no, I'm not for bailing out that. That act was for veterans. Let's see what else we have. Oh, Deborah talked about youth detention centers. I got to go here, Deborah. I'm going to try to do this as quickly as I can, because y'all know how long-winded I get. And I'm going to go a little bit over. I know I have a Twitter Space meeting tonight, which is going to be amazing. You guys should look that up and join us on X Space, I think it's called. I've read enough into this, but I don't have to read the whole question. Oh my goodness. The Department of Child, Youth, and Family Services, who has command and control over our youth detention facilities, Echo Glen and Green Hill, announced last week? We're out of space. They have been out of space for years. And then finally they say, we're not taking any more young criminals. Have you all noticed that for years, youth crime has been out of control, which is why on day one, amongst my stack of bills that I'm going to be bringing, y'all know that the government can propose legislation to the legislature, and I will be. One will be a youth crime bill, which also will be talking about reinvesting in the infrastructure for youth facilities. They announced that they have no more space, and so local law enforcement agencies, you arrest them, you keep them, because we can't do anything with them. Courts, you prosecute them, you sentence them, but you can't send them to us because we have no more space. Do you see how crazy and scary this is? Do you think crime is going to stop because this state agency is ran so poorly, that this government has been mismanaged so poorly? And pause. This state government, which is ran by career politicians, all that experience, what? It comes down to leadership and management skills. It comes down to accountability and transparency. And you don't get to a point where on Thursday you're cool and then Friday you're out of the room. It doesn't happen like that. It doesn't get to a point where on Monday roads and bridges are good and then on Friday they're bad. It doesn't get to a point where you're paying billions of dollars for decades in a gas tax, which we all know. I've been here for 57 years, raised in Washington State. I was raised in Seattle, Washington. We've been paying gas tax, which that money goes to roads and bridges for decades. How is it that in 2024, the Department of Transportation is telling us we have a $1 billion debt, and we need that money in order to bring our roads and bridges up to a state of maintenance now. That didn't happen overnight. This is called mismanagement and financial irresponsibility. All of those people in office have been in office for a while. Are you guys getting what I'm saying? Career politicians. It doesn't get any better when you elect another career politician to do the same thing that they have been doing, and then they bring more of the same in. I'm not doing that. And I'm already selecting my cabinet. Know this. Let me rephrase or restate or reiterate. I am beginning right now, because I am confident that we will win the primary election, that I have initiated and I am selecting my cabinet for next January when we assume office as governor of Washington State. And we are bringing in subject matter experts. I wrote my economic development solutions with actions, and I published it. And I said that we're bringing in a director of continuous improvement and organizational development, and that director will be housed in the Office of Financial Management. I'm not growing government. I'm going to shrink government, and that person is going to help me do that, right? So I'm going to invest $1.50, and then we're going to get back about, we'll just say $10 billion in 2 years. That's the projection. Just that one position. A subject matter expert on organizational development, performance improvement, and continuous improvement. We're going to ensure that we have lean Six Sigma green belts in every department and black belts within this department. We're always taking steps towards excellence so that we're spending less of your taxpayer dollars so we can start giving that money back, and so that we don't have to do these tax increases. I'd like to look for a reason to take that 1% property tax cap that they're trying to raise to 3%. I'd like to take that and lower it to 0.5%. I want to look for a way to lower property tax. Why? I'm not trying to promise soda pop and candy bars in every classroom because I'm running for 8th grade, student leader. What I'm trying to say is simply this. If you're a property owner, own your property, but you keep taking money from us, how am I ever going to be a property owner? I get that. So let us manage state government effectively, efficiently, so that we don't have to penalize the citizens of our state. And then those who are property owners, we can start respecting their ownership by lowering taxes. Don't even get me started about what we're going to do for small business owners so that they can start paying people. You want to talk about a livable wage? I want to bring wages into a state where people are banging down the doors to want to work in Washington because cost of living is low, but jobs are thriving. Technical skills, opportunities are growing. You don't get that with career politicians. You get that by bringing subject matter experts in who know how to do it. These aren't people who look for politics. These are successful business owners, successful leaders in their own right, and they have a heart for change and a passion and love of Washington State that they themselves retired want to give of themselves for their children and grandchildren. They want to be a part of a legacy for Washington State that when they go to their next life, that they can say, I gave something to transform Washington State into a state of wealth and prosperity for future generations. This is not a dream. This is a reality. This is a vision. And then we create a strategic plan for every department of state government, mandatory, with operational goals that are smart goals, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time sensitive. I want to know what you're going to do. I want to know how you're measuring it. I want to know key performance indicators. And I want to know when you're going to get it done. And then we're going to put it on the website so every citizen in this state can see what we're doing. That's what we're talking about. All right. I got questions here. How do you feel about tackling the lack of financial responsibility Washington has exhibited in the past? And so for Viking Son, I mean, that's what we're talking about. Brother, that's exactly what I'm talking about. And amen to that question. That's what this office, that's why I'm putting that director in the Office of Financial Management. It'll be transparent. Every single office, that audit that we're doing, all that money. So what they were doing is they would take state funds and put it into a general fund. Every penny, and talk to any CPA, any penny on a revenue stream coming in or going out has an accountability code. It has a code that identifies what the money that's the revenue money coming in and the expenditure goes out. It's tax codes. Everything is accountable to the penny. And that is going to be transparent and accessible by any citizen. If you want to get in the geek works of the ledger of the books, you go right ahead, access it on the website. Transparency. We work for you. Government serves the citizens of Washington State. You got time, you want to do it, you go right ahead. We're going to make sure you have accessibility to it. It's called accountability and then transparency. So that's exactly what we're talking about. That's exactly what we're talking about in every single department in the state government. It's going to be mandatory that they have a strategic plan so that you know that whatever their role is, that they're doing it well. And then the numbers to prove it. Not take my word, oh, we're doing a good job, trust me on that. No, show me on that. You can just go right in and check it out. Measurable goals, measurable performance outcomes. That's what you're going to see, because that's what I'm going to demand as the Chief Executive Officer of Washington State. I hope that makes sense. Oh, Viking, no, that's on you. That was an amazing question. And that's why I'm going to work. If you want a politician, maybe I'm not your cat. You want someone to look pretty and sit in an office and, answer to the big donors and do their bidding and maybe slip them a few contracts. I'm not your guy. I'm going in to cut, shrink government, lower taxes, make sure that young people can afford houses, to make sure the people living in the Puget Sound area can afford to buy a home again. I want to make sure that we can bring jobs to Okanagan County, to Grant County, Adams County. We want to spread that out. And again, the citizens of those counties will vote. But if they vote that they want opportunity for industry to set up shop and bring jobs and prosperity to their communities, then the state, we will go crazy wildfire in that. And while we're talking on wildfire, I just triggered myself. We are bringing back the timber industry to Washington State. And by doing so, we will bring true forest management back to Washington State to minimize forest fires. You want to talk about carbon emissions into the atmosphere, into the the ozone layer. Those out of control forest fires, because we have all that low cut brush, all that dead timber just laying there, and no one is managing it. We have dense forest with no cutting. Why would we not bring back the timber industry where we can enrich, we can bring business and jobs, and then at the same time mitigate and minimize forest fires, loss of life, loss of property, loss of precious, beautiful resources, and protect our environment and wildlife? That's what we're going to do. It is a win-win and win. I can probably throw another win in there. And the Department of Fish and Wildlife, we will honor hunters and anglers in Washington State. We will ensure that we have a balance of representation according to the law. We will respect true conservation, the North American model of wildlife conservation, which says that we must manage our conservation. We're bringing back the spring bear hunt. We're going to make sure that we manage predators. And I sure as the heck am not going to continue to allow them to release predators into the Northern Cascades, those grizzlies, and present a danger. Livestock. And then it's going to be people. Wolves that were released here, that were on the endangered species list, are no longer endangered in Washington State. I haven't read about it. I'm not hearing people talk about it. We should be talking about it. Let's see what we have here. Lynette says something about, you're right, Lynette. Lynette asked about sanctuary state status. Lynette, you read right and you heard right. On day one of my administration, I will end sanctuary state status for Washington State. We will no longer be a sanctuary state. Washington first. Washington citizens will come first from now on. We have people living at or below the poverty line. We can no longer handle the economic stress and strain. Billions of dollars. That money needs to go to our citizens. We need to create more jobs. We need to improve our education system. We have a lot of work to do in Washington State. You don't want to invite a whole city over to your house for dinner when you cannot even feed your own family. So no, we're going to end sanctuary state status. We're going to secure our border, our northern border, which is wide open. We have a human trafficking, sex trafficking problem in Washington State. I know how to mitigate it. We have a fentanyl crisis in Washington State. I know how to address it. And you can ask me questions and I can get as specific as anyone wants to get on this. I've worked with the DEA. I know exactly how to target a narco-terrorist. Crime syndicates who facilitate not only in drug trafficking, but human trafficking. We have wide open ports. That's right. We have a port border that no one talks about. We have vulnerable infrastructure in Washington State. China should not be able to come in here and purchase land in Washington State. That ends. That will be another bill I will be proposing on day one, along with an election integrity bill. I do support election integrity, election security. Make sure free and fair elections, everybody has access. Everybody. But you must have an ID. It should be in person. It should be paper ballot. We need to clean those voter rolls every 30 days by law or penalty auditors. That's right. You will be penalized criminally if you are not cleaning up those voter rolls every 30 days. And no more motor voter. Just because you get a driver's license does not mean you're registered to vote. And you must be a citizen to vote in Washington State. And there's a better way to count votes than using machines. Paper ballots in person. One day we're going to incentivize businesses to release people to go vote in person. We're going to incentivize them with a tax break so that they get their money. They're, again, half day off, go vote. Oh, we've got election integrity bill. That's right. We got a plan. We've got a plan. And I think you heard me. That's right, Viking. Not just an ID. You have to be a citizen to vote. That's right. And someone said, you can't remove sanctuary state status. Well, Lynette, they're wrong. They're wrong because that's exactly what Jay Inslee did. It was an executive order that he did. Now, if you want to talk about cooperating with ICE, 100%. Whether they do it, people don't understand the power of the government. And I'm not talking about taking away citizens' rights. I'm a constitutionalist. I've said that from the beginning. Whether you like where I stand or you don't like where I stand, I'm not going to deviate from the Constitution. And even people who support me would go, they may not like things because if it's in the law or the Constitution, I'm not messing with it because I can't. It's outside of my authority. And you're not going to exchange one tyrant under a Democrat label for another tyrant under a Republican label. That is the beauty of the Constitution. That is my foundation of governance. So I'm not owned by any party. I'm not owned by any donors. No one owes me. No one runs me. I cannot be bought. You cannot intimidate me, and you cannot scare me. They've already tried all of the above. So when I serve to the rule of law, which is the Constitution of Washington State and the Constitution of the United States of America. And I work for the citizens of Washington State. And so even if the highest office of the land thinks they can command me as the representative of the citizens of Washington, 10th Amendment, baby, states' rights. I serve the citizens of Washington State. I work for the citizens of Washington State. Record that and play it back. I know who my boss is, just like my wife is in my chain of command, and I know that very clearly. She's an angel and she's precious, but she's my boss. So, no, we need to work with ICE, and we have laws in Washington State that must be addressed and must be changed, and that'll either happen through initiative or through legislation. But what people need to understand is that the governor of Washington State is the chief executive officer. We have the leader of the Department of Transportation, the leader of the Department of Social and Health Services, the leader of the Department of Commerce, the leader of the Department of Ecology, all of those senior leaders, that cabinet works for the Chief Executive Officer of Washington State. And not every regulation is a law, which means the governor of Washington State tells that employee, you will not go after that farmer. You will not go after that rancher. You will support them. L&I, that Director of Labor and Industries, you are a customer service organization, so you're not showing up at that fabrication company and looking for ways to penalize and to ding them. You're not weaponizing government after our citizens anymore. That stops on day one of my administration. There's a whole new mindset. And like I said, I'm already selecting my cabinet. Why? Because mama didn't raise no fool. I'm not stepping in there and going to be pulling knives out of my back for the next 4 years of my administration. If you're in office and you're willing to serve the people and you're willing to support performance improvement that enriches and supports the citizens, the everyday citizens, I want to close the wealth gap. I want opportunity zones in some of the lowest income neighborhoods of our state. If you're with me on that, then stay with me on that. If you're with me on lifting people up out of poverty and despair, then stay with me on that. But if you're going to be a pain in the you know what, and you're going to be undermining, then you're not going to have a home here, because we are moving forward to make Washington State affordable again. That's what we're working towards. We're working towards creating a better way of life for the citizens of our state. And I don't care what your political party is. It's about those people who are suffering, who are struggling, those single moms, making our schools better. Oh my goodness, you guys, that's the whole reason I'm running. I don't care about the politics and those, again, I don't care how much money you have. It doesn't impress me. It's service. And I will be a servant leader to the citizens of Washington State. I will honor my words. Say what you mean and do what you say. Facta non verba, deeds not words. You got to prove it. You got to earn it. I'm all about that. I'm all about that. We need to bring that back. And one of the beauties about the Constitution is the Constitution, again, is there to protect the people. And it says it explicitly. Article 1, Section 1. So one more time. Power is inherent in the people, and government derives its just powers from the consent of the governed. It's government's job to protect and to maintain the individual rights of citizens. Article 1, Section 1 of the Washington State Constitution. It was the first thing that our founders of this state said, and they ensured that we understood. I think we forgot that. I know we forgot that, especially this last administration. So while I have nothing against Bob and nothing against Dave, what I'm telling you is they would not be good for Washington State. They are more of the same. We don't need more of the same. We need something different. We need someone who will go in and serve, and not someone who will serve this group or serve this group or serve these donors and these donors. It's the people. It's the people. I remember when I was at Juneteenth, this wonderful lady said, I got to help you with your vernacular. I got to help you with your definitions. And we haven't had a chance to connect, but we will connect, and I will utilize her assistance, because we want the same thing. We want the same thing. We want to lift people up. It is about time to start lifting people up. And all those labels we use to divide us, it only weakens us. It weakens us as a nation, and it weakens us as a state. Leaders unite. They don't divide. I've said that before. So I will be a leader that unites. And again, people are going to be people. The primary. Again, you've got Bob that's over here. You got Mark and Dave right in the middle, and you've got me right here. I want everyone to vote for me. But people on the far left, they may not, because of the labels, etc. And probably also because, no, I will not penalize the lives of citizens over this climate change ideology. I will do everything and protect our environment. Our waters and our forests and our lands will be pristine, crystal, perfect. I will always fight for that. But I will not see a child go hungry, shut down a school, see businesses close, people go into despair because of it. No, I won't. But we will protect our environment 100%. That's what we can agree on, but not that. So we may not agree on everything. But what I can guarantee you is if you're right here and you were going to come here, come here. But think about this. This whole nonsense about a crossover, you're going to cross over a respected Democrat senator to vote for a Democrat like or Republican like. If you believe in that, you go right ahead. But I got to go here. I went over. I got my X. We have X space. I don't want Dawn to freak out. She's like, Simi, don't forget. My friends, I wish I can think of it the best way to say this. Do not compromise your values or your beliefs for what other people tell you. They feed you a poll. The media, whether they call themselves conservative or whatever, you've seen it. You've seen media weaponized. Have you seen me call names? Have you ever seen me call Dave Reichert a name? You've heard him call me a con man, a snake oil salesman, a crook, a thief. But you've never heard me reciprocate that. I won't. I won't. That tells you a little bit about me. But you've seen the media jump on it, sensationalize things, spread it. And then they bring out these polls and they tell you what to do. They tell you how to vote. They tell you what they want you to believe. We need to declare our independence. We need to secure our liberty and our freedom and preserve a future for our children. And the only way to do that is listen to our hearts and do what we believe is right. And again, when I say we need to stand up for what we believe in and fight for what we love, my way of fighting is with love and truth and compassion and just sharing it through knowledge. That's why I say we don't call names. And I've always said that. Bring the truth. Talk about the differences. Compare and contrast. Don't attack. That only lowers ourselves. And we don't want to be seen as that kind of candidate because I will never serve as that kind of governor. Even if you do not agree with me, even if you do not like me, I will never attack you. It would be wrong. And it doesn't make anything better. Whenever there's darkness, you have to bring the light. You have to. That's what leaders do. You have an obligation to bring the light, even if it's hard, even if it hurts. And trust me, it has hurt. But I am blessed beyond all means. And so I want you to go out and vote. Here's what you have to do. Ballot pamphlets came out yesterday. I got mine. Very surreal. The kid born in the inner city, right? Single mom, 7 kids, and my beautiful sister, Maselli. I love you, sister, if you're listening. I was chairing a meeting last night. My sister, Maselli, sent me this beautiful message. I would read it to you all. Just love talking about Christ. My sister and I used to fight like cats and dogs. And she has been so kind and supportive. And she has lit my heart up with her love. My other sister, Edith, is in heaven with my mother and my brother, James. I talked to my brother, Larry, the other day, and my brother Michael's down there. My brother David's down there in California. So I have such a beautiful family. My cousin's probably on here too. I some amazing nieces and nephews, Kyle and Jericho and Maya and so many others. Living in Washington State, and I'm so proud of them. Beautiful. Beautiful young men and women. I don't know where I was going with this, but I started off without civil rights and had every reason to not be successful in life. I've made mistakes in life. But because of this great nation, this beautiful state, and because of my amazing and beautiful mother, I just never gave up. I never gave up. And in my heart, that love, that faith, it's guided me. It's helped me. It always gave me a home where I can always come back to. And I want people to have hope. That's why we run our campaign the way we do. That's why we're doing what we're doing. We want to bring hope, not only bring transformational change to enrich the lives of others, but we have to give people hope. And then we need to bring them mechanisms, breaking down those barriers that hold people back, and then give them the mechanism to find their piece of the American dream. That is something we should all want to do. And we do it different ways. And so I don't forget, every single day I'm out on the campaign trail, and many of you guys know this, I'm with you. And I see you, and I'm with you all the time, and every time you give me that love, and you give me hope. Every time. Every time you give me that hope, you give me that love, you give me that encouragement. So why would I not want to reciprocate that in service and in love? The state in which I was raised in. I have every reason to want to give this back to Washington State. Call me naive or idealistic, but I think that is a good place to stand. So I want you to stand with me. Don't let anybody discourage you from voting for us if you believe in our message, if you believe in our qualifications to bring the change. Don't worry about the money, because after we win the primary election, all that money comes to us as well, because now it's Bob Ferguson and Simi Bird. And everyone knows what Bob Ferguson has done to Washington State. Again, he's the chief law enforcement officer of Washington State. And he has ownership of the CHOP and the CHAZ and the crime and what is happening with our young people. He owns all of that. And everyone knows it. So don't forget it, because no one else is going to forget it. And then it's going to be us. And we have never given anyone a reason to not support us. But we're going to give everyone a reason to support us. And that reason is hope. And that reason is solutions. Real solutions to transform Washington State into a new future of economic growth and prosperity for all of our citizens. So with that, I will leave you. I'm going to ask you to go to burrforgovernor.com and give support any way you can. So don't be discouraged. Strategy is everything. That's my thing. You're going to start seeing a lot of commercials come out. You're going to see more, a lot more. It's all about timing, folks. Strategery, as that one president said. So keep the faith, maintain your hope, believe in America, believe in Washington State, and together we will do this. Don't let them get in your head. Washington first, America first. We're putting people over politics. God bless you, and I'll see you guys soon. Final words. Vote early. Vote early. Take a picture of your ballot, who you voted for. Send a picture all over social media. Let everyone know who you voted for. Bug your neighbors. Get that phone out. Text. Bug everyone. Did you vote? Did you vote? Did you vote? If you know someone who is 17 years of age and they're going to be 18 before the general election, they can vote in the primary. Make sure that they vote. So that's how we do it. We tell everyone. We don't give up. Send it in, and then voting early will get those numbers. Let everyone see that we are winning, that we are transforming Washington. We'll build that hope, and those numbers will show. Just like it showed in the convention, we're going to show it again. So again, God bless. We'll see you guys next week. Keep the faith. We're getting it done. Talk to you soon.